Hello and welcome to the Immigrant magazine's Frank Talk with Pamela Anchang. It's a bright new day in African cinema with the impending release of Disney's new film, Queen of Katwe, the true story of a young girl from the streets of Uganda who defies the odds to become an international chess champion and prodigy. At the helm of this film is my guest today, Mr. Tendo Nagenda, Senior Vice President of Production for Walt Disney, overseeing such blockbuster films like Cinderella, the critically acclaimed Mr. Banks, the inspirational drama McFarland, and now Queen of Katwe, starring Oscar winner Lupita Nyong'o, actor David Oyelowo, and directed by Mira Nair. So great to have you, Tendo.
So great to be here. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, congratulations. I have seen the film, and it's an incredible film.
Thank you.
Let's just get to it because we have too many questions. Many people want to know.
Okay.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I'm excited about it.
So I'm going to ask you straight off the bat. Given your repertoire of great films, like we just said, Cinderella, McFarland, and all the like, I'm really curious to know why take the risk with a film about this young girl from Africa, Fiona Mutesi?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, I think that the film is a Disney film, just like any of the films that you've named, in the sense that it has many things in common with those. Magic, imagination, heart, humor, adventure. And in fact, when I was developing the screenplay for Queen of Katwe, I was also developing at the same time a screenplay for a live-action version of Cinderella, which we released last year. And part of the reason that the story, Fiona's story, was so appealing at that time to not just myself, but also to my bosses, was because it's a great underdog story, just like Cinderella is. In fact, somebody who has a gift that's maybe overlooked, but somehow is discovered, or discovers her gift, discovers her passion, and then is able to have it nurtured and ultimately, as a result, change the circumstances of her life. So, in fact, it's a Disney story. Then the other thing is that I saw myself in the story, and I think that one of the things that Disney encourages us to do is put yourself into the things that you work on.
Absolutely.
My point of view or my colleagues' point of view, how we see the world, is just as important a factor in making a film that we work on as anybody else's point of view. And so I saw myself in the film, and so I personally related to it, and I thought it was a Disney film, and I felt like we hadn't seen a film like this before on screen. That is to say, a movie by Africa for the world. And so in films and looking for films, you're looking for stories that are going to be interesting and appealing and bring people into the theater because they haven't necessarily seen that story told that way before. And I thought that it fit all of those categories.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point to make. Now, the other aspect of the film that I just couldn't help but notice was the gender aspect of it.
Yes.
The protagonists seem to be mostly female.
Yes.
Of course, we have David Oyelowo, who plays
the mentor.
But I'm just wondering if there's any significance in that aspect, not only in Africa but many other places, whether that is relatable in some way.
Very much so. First of all, it's in front of the true story, then the making of the film. All are only possible because of extremely strong female characters. Our young girl Fiona, the young woman that plays Fiona, Medina, who's from a slum close to Katwe. In fact, Lupita Nyong'o needs no introduction. Mira Nair, powerhouse. One of our producers, Lydia Pilcher, also a powerhouse. The film's not makeable in Uganda without her, or without any of those people. So that is just a sort of natural strength of the story,
right,
that's immediately appealing, and we'd always seen it as Fiona's story. The other thing is, when Mira was developing the script, she had always seen the Lupita character, Fiona's mom, Harriet, as a young Mother Courage. She's a very young mother, and that emotional connection to her daughter really is the emotional heartbeat of the film. Of course, Robert Katende, who David Oyelowo plays, is pivotal to
Yes,
the story.
absolutely.
He's absolutely pivotal to the story, but the story is told from Fiona's point of view.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
it's not just about what Robert did for Fiona, but about what Fiona did for herself. And so that fact led us to tell the story the way that it was told, including, of course, the people that were telling it naturally gravitate towards what they connect to and where they
Yes.
see themselves in the story, and that was from a strong female point of view.
That is so true because, I mean, look at today, women all over the world are
Yes.
stepping up. But, in Africa, yeah, we do have, like, Sirleaf Johnson of Liberia,
Yes.
who's president. So but however, in the cultures, intrinsically, the roles that women play
Yes.
are not so obvious in strength.
Right. The perception and the reality of the roles women play in Africa, I think, is often misconstrued.
Absolutely.
Women are fundamental to society, period, but they're also leaders in many different categories, not just president or prime minister, but community leaders, church leaders, and leaders within larger or broader based communities. As we know, largely quicker to mature, quicker to to sort of take on responsibility, and in such leading, and I think we wanted to emphasize that in this film as well.
Oh, it's so well done. And to our next question, you're the son of an African immigrant, and your mom is Belizean.
Yes.
So I'm still trying to figure it out how you're able to capture this film and the essence of that African culture. You're a diasporan basically, but hey, born and raised in the United States.
That's right.
Tell me, how were you able to do this?
Well, a key part of it, and you're right, my father's Ugandan, which drew me to the story to begin with. It's where I connected. And Fiona, at the time that we started telling the story, was about 11 or so. And it so happens when I was 12, I was born in Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
But when I was 12, my father moved us back to Uganda. So what we thought was permanently, but it ended up being a year and a half. So I spent a year and a half in Uganda, going to school, living, and sort of really kind of just recognizing, getting to know that part of my family, of my culture, of my history. So there's an intuitive understanding of the place and also the age at that time and how people interact with each other, that I also think is a little known fact about Africa, or a little told fact about Africa, in terms of kids are kids.
That's true.
And one of the things that I learned when I moved back to Uganda was, first of all, it expanded my worldview, right? So I had seen the world very much as an American. Now I was in Uganda seeing it as a Ugandan.
Yes.
And a lot of the things that I thought about as an American kid are things that I thought about as a Ugandan kid. And I immediately felt that there was more that connected us than separated us. It's just a matter of will you make that connection. And so when I read the story of Fiona, and as we started to talk about it with Mira, and I get to know the real Fiona, you just get a sense of the rhythms, and they're very familiar and recognizable. Her interaction with her brothers, and her interaction with Robert, and her interaction with her friends, all seem very natural. And so we knew that the success of the film rested on capturing the essence of those relationships. So that's sort of informed how we developed the screenplay, how we thought about the movie, and then when we were making the film, we had Robert on as a consultant, we had Fiona around, and they could steer us when we went too far afield. And then all of the casting in the film, with the exception of Lupita and David, was done locally right there in Uganda. So you have people who maybe never acted for film before, but come from the real place, speak in the way that the place speaks, and have the sensibility and the rhythms of the place. And so you trust a lot that will be an authentic telling, and you tell them that is what we want. We actually don't want you to perform another way. We want you to capture the essence of your truth, and that I hope is what we were able to do in the film.
It was so brilliantly done. I mean, I was going to go to my next question about your casting. It's all African, and you have Lupita and David, and then the kids.
Yes.
Amazing. Those kids have never acted before. I mean, how did you get them to, be able to face the cameras and do all the work?
Right. Well, it was a growth period. It was art imitating life
Right.
in a way, a new opportunity for the people playing the people. We went to schools, we went to places that emphasize arts and performances to find people interested and capable and with talent,
Yes.
and interested in acting in the film. And then really you have to give Mira Nair all the credit. She's lived in Uganda 27 years.
Okay, that helps.
She
Certainly.
has a film school or foundation called Maisha, in which she's trained a lot of young filmmakers and therefore worked with a lot of people locally. So she could hear and find people. We had great casting directors, one local to Uganda, and one from India who had worked with Mira before.
Okay.
On her first film, Salam Bombay, which was about slum children out of a slum in India, which she did with non-professional actors. And so we put them through a boot camp of sorts, where as soon as they were cast, they came in for about 4 to 6 weeks and got to interact with each other, practice acting techniques, and then also how to act and react to each other. Sometimes reading the script, sometimes not reading the script, and just understanding the purpose of the scenes. And so then when we went to film it, that hopefully translated to their performance. And then as we went on in the film, we shot the film over the course of 60 shooting days. They got better and better and better. And Lupita and David took all of these kids under their wing and were acting in scenes with them, so giving them a lot to play off of and tips for how they could achieve something, and then getting to know them off screen just created a comfort level.
Yeah, it was so authentic. I mean, it's just amazing how that was done.
Thank you.
Very important question that I really have to ask. You know, most Hollywood films, of course, are typically not, you know, even when they're African.
Yeah.
We Africans don't seem to feel like they're really telling our stories. You know what I mean? So how did you weren't you tempted to do stories about the usual doom and gloom, sickness and everything, but you know, you're able to convince a company like Disney to tell a story that is such an empowering story like Queen of Katwe, and not revert to the same old stereotypes?
Two things primarily. First of all, I want to see different stories told.
Right.
So I look for different stories to be told. The other thing is that at Disney, I've been here 6 years. I was brought in under the belief, and I believe it, and I've carried it out, and they've responded. Those I work with have responded in kind, that we're dedicated to telling the best stories from wherever they come from. Sometimes that is outer space, sometimes that's the past, sometimes that's the future, or sometimes it's Uganda, East Africa. And in that sense, this story was a great story. It needed to be told. Also, it's a non-political story. It's a story about that's hopefully inspiring and positive. And that in and of itself is just an aspect that we who've been to Africa and know Africa a bit more intimately see all the time, but don't necessarily get to see represented on the screen. There are other great stories to tell. Some of them are political, some of them are about war, some of them are very necessary. So those, I don't have anything against those stories, but I wanted to tell a different story. And then plus I have to tell that story that I think is also authentic to Disney.
Correct.
Right, that has the thematic elements of a Disney film, as I've described it before, magic, imagination, heart, humor, adventure. And so this one had it, and I thought this is the story for us to tell at Disney. And so when I explained it to my colleagues and my bosses in that respect, they saw it first as a Disney film, and then the elements that were specific to Uganda, Africa, East Africa, came after that, right? So I have to. They see the potential for the story as a Disney film, same as Cinderella or anything else, Mary Poppins, whatever.
Exactly.
And then they saw, the place specific is another interesting aspect. And in film, we try to take people to places that they couldn't otherwise go.
Absolutely.
Many people will never get to visit Katwe or Uganda for that matter. But through our film, they can go there and see how that story connects with their story, whether they live in Brixton, London, or Brooklyn, New York.
You know, that's so true because, I mean, we watched the film with even African Americans who were able to relate to the, you know, the similarities, the experiences. You know, it's just maybe a different setting, but hey, I think it's just a beautiful humanitarian story and really inspiring.
Yes, and further to that, we wouldn't be able to make the story if it was just for the people who were in Uganda.
Sure.
Right? At the budget that we made the film for and with the ambition.
Yes.
That wasn't our ideal. Our idea was to tell a story authentic to Africa, from Africa, by Africa, but for the world.
Big things from such a small place.
Don't think about such things.
Why not?
You would be disappointed.
Hey Fiona, how is your life?
It is fine.
Young girl, come inside. What is your name?
Fiona.
Could you please show Fiona how to move the pieces?
In chess, the small one can become the big one.
You can say anything you wanna say.
Chess helps us solve problems.
Hate me, but I'm gonna love you anyway.
It teaches us to make a plan.
If you didn't have a wall to hide behind,
Use your minds,
but you fall to pieces when your eyes met mine.
and you will all find safety.
Why are you letting her win?
I'm not letting her.
You can see it moves ahead.
Checkmate. 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 She won.
You could be the best in all of Uganda.
Coach, how can I become a champion?
Sometimes the place you are used to is not the place you belong. You belong where you believe you belong. Where is that for you?
None of your sneak attacks. This is not the ghetto.
I don't need to sneak. Checkmate.
This year's gold medalist, Fiona Mute.
Your children are blessed because they have a mother who never gave up on them.
Are you my daughter?
Yes, Mama, I am. Coach, you told us to make a plan, but I fear things will never change.
What matters is when you reset the pieces
She's winning. She's winning.
and play again.
Stronger than your bruises, I got thick skin.